welcome to today's TIU Global Dialogue session. This is the 5th session of our series, and I'll be your moderator today. My name is Chris Lamont, and I'm an Associate Professor of International Relations and Assistant Dean of the E-Track program at Tokyo International University. We are delighted to welcome our speaker for today's session, Dr. Tin Maung Maung Than, who is a commissioner on Myanmar's National Human Rights Commission. He joined this 5-year term presidential appointee position in January 2020. Dr. Tin is also an associate fellow at the ISEAS Yusof Ishak Institute in Singapore, where he was the resident Myanmar specialist from May 1983 to June 2015. He is also vice chair of the Yangon-based think tank Center for Economic and Social Development, as well as the academic advisor of the Yangon-based Pana Institute. He obtained his PhD in politics from the School of Oriental and African Studies at the University of London, and he authored State Dominance in Myanmar, The Political Economy of Industrialization, which is available with Cambridge University Press. In addition to this book, Dr. Tin has published widely on Myanmar's economy, politics, security, foreign relations, and society. Dr. Tin Maung Maung Than will provide us with a presentation on the work of the Myanmar National Human Rights Commission. He'll explore the question of how does the Myanmar National Human Rights Commission function? He will also explore how the Myanmar National Human Rights Commission was established by the government on September 5th, 2011, as part of political, economic, and social reforms in the former Thein Sein government. And he will elaborate on the roles of the Myanmar National Human Rights Commission in the Myanmar context, focusing on activities regarding international obligations, human rights promotion, education, and protection. He will also address how international organizations and non-state actors participate in human rights promotion activities for Myanmar. Now, before I hand over the floor to Dr. Tin, I would like to let the audience know that we'll have a question and answer session after Dr. Tin's presentation, and you're welcome to use the question and answer function to type your questions or raise your hand to ask a question during the Q&A session. So with that, I would like to hand over the floor to Dr. Tin Maung Maung Than. Thank you very much for joining us.
Hello, everybody. Good morning. I would like to start with a disclaimer that what I'm saying is a private capacity and I do not represent the institution that I work for. So to begin with, there is a certain context in which this institution was established. Myanmar was under military rule from 1962 until 1988. And it is, even the word human rights is taboo, has been taboo for a long time. So when we started out, we have to follow the international norms in order to be part of the international system of human rights institutions. So basically, we have international obligations generally covered by the Universal Declaration of Human Rights, which you see was adopted by the UN General Assembly in '48. It is basically a common standard for achievement of all peoples and nations. And everybody, every individuals are equal, and they have the rights for various rights for education, promotion, national and international obligations are there. They are all universal and in recognition and observance of the people of the member states. And this is the fundamental rule book that we go by. And then when we started out as human rights institutions, we have to follow the Paris Principles. The Paris Principles were established for the National Human Rights Institution. So the Paris Principles were the basic principles followed up by all the national human rights institutions. And the most important part of is that the status provided international benchmarks for which national human rights institutions can be accredited by the Global Alliance of National Human Rights Institutions, or GANRI. So NHRIs, or National Human Rights Institutions, has to protect human rights, including receiving, investigating, resolving complaints, mediating conflicts, and monitoring civilian promotion of human rights through education, outreach, publication training, capacity building, advising the governments. They do not have executive authority. They are basically the uphold the standards and advise their respective governments. So to do that work, the main criteria is they must have a mandate and competence based on universal human rights norms and standards. They must be autonomous from the government. They must have independence guaranteed by either a statute or a constitution. And they must practice pluralism. And they must have adequate resources and adequate powers of investigation. So there are many ways of elaborating what human rights are, but the simplest way is to, according to the United Nations, you can classify them into various types, like civil rights, political rights, economic rights, social rights, and cultural rights. Now, coming back to Myanmar, human rights is a new concept that has been identified under the present regime and the previous regime when the military hand over power to elected government. Our Constitution of 2008 has certain articles which are related to human rights. One of them is that the union, which means the state, prohibits the enslavement and trafficking of persons. Another article said, no penalties shall be prescribed that violated human rights, human dignity. And then also necessary laws shall be enacted for making citizens freedom, rights, and benefits in steadfast and complete. The union shall guarantee any person to enjoy equal rights before the law and shall equally provide legal protection. So these are the basic concepts incorporated in our Constitution. Now, the Commission itself, in short, MNHRC, Myanmar National Human Rights Commission, was established, as Chris has said, in 2011. This is in line with the recommendation of the United Nations Human Rights Council's UNHRC Universal Periodic Review, which is done to all the member states in a periodic review of their human rights performance. So we became the 5th country among ASEAN members, 10 ASEAN members, to establish a national human rights institution. Now, this institution is accountable to the president of the government of the country. And it had to submit reports to the president, the parliament, and relevant UN bodies, just like UNHRC. The law was enacted only in 2014. Although the commission was established in 2011, the actual law was passed only in 2014. And it is mandated to promote public awareness of human rights and combat all forms of discrimination and human rights violations through the provision of information, education, and complaint mechanism. Objective is for this to establish a society where human rights are respected and protected in recognition of the UNDHR, which is the Universal Declaration of Human Rights. This is the so-called union level body, which could be, say, a central level body. And its chair has the status of a union minister, and the commissioner has the status of deputy minister or minister of state. It has a 5-year term, so it was reconstituted with 11 members, which include the chairperson, by a presidential order in 2020 January. For gender participation, it's not so bad. I mean, we have 4 females commissioner among the 11, and the vice chair is a lady. We operated 6 functional divisions in our head office. One is promotion, education, another is protection, another is legal affairs, and international relations. There is also administration and finance division, and then there is so-called e-government division, which was formed very recently in September 2020 to keep up with the times. Our activities are based on our operational plan. And for annual plan of last year, it was operational plan for 2020. We have a timeline for our activities. But however, due to COVID-19, restrictions are there, of course, on our public activities, and some of them had to be postponed. The Commission is implementing the remaining planned activities of the year, and now we are now in 2021. And in addition, we also have tasks of our choice by utilizing ICT resources and online platforms, because we have social distancing, we have partial lockdowns in certain parts of the country. Among our main activities, we issue public statements on concerning human rights issues in the media and to the general public for raising awareness and also to alert the authorities concerned. Some of them include the presidential amnesty of the prisoners. And then we also have declaration on ceasefires, and then also on COVID-19 restrictions, which restrict movement. And then we also are concerned with children in violent conflict, which means we have conflict zones, which are brown areas where children suffer the most. And we are also concerned with cyberbullying. And then the women's dignity is our main concern too, regarding how our women are treated. And then we also comment on mine disasters, which resulted in human lives lost. And then we also, as a rule, on a daily basis, handle complaints. We inspect them if necessary, and then we will then send our recommendations to the authorities concerned. We also observe the November 2020 general elections as much as we can within our own resources. In our engagement, we have the following topics concerned, especially with the international partners. We discuss them, basically our strategic plan, mainly with our NHRI partners in our Asia Pacific, and also our operational plan. And we also discuss with our international partners recommendations of the Commission's capacity assessment report and future activities. We also cooperate with some of the international organizations regarding election monitoring. And we are now engaging in business and human rights issues. These are all with our international partners and UN bodies. Some of them include Asia Pacific Forum of National Human Rights Institutions, and we attended their meetings in August online, and we discussed the Paris Principles. We also engage with UN agencies, INGOs, foreign diplomats. For example, we met with United Nations Development Program staff, and they have technical experts, and they are providing us funds and technical assistance, especially in the IT infrastructure and our public outreach program and human rights knowledge sharing. So we also cooperate with UNICEF, United Nations Children's Fund, and the International Committee for the Red Cross, ICRC. We also host foreign ambassadors to discuss cooperation with the countries. Some of them are from European Union, Singapore, Czech Republic, for example, last year. Our Promotion and Education Division is concerned mainly with dissemination of human rights knowledge. So far, in the last 5 years, we have conducted human rights talks to more than 100 townships all over the countryside. We provide workshops and training programs for government officials, civil, social, and public, and the general public, civil society organizations. We foster the culture of respect for human rights and development of peaceful, democratic society. We gave lectures on human rights at government training institutions for civil service, police, military officers, and the fire service as well. We produce educational material, documents, broadcast materials, in collaboration with some of the NGOs. One of them is the Child Rights Working Group of the local NGOs. We produce booklets in both Myanmar and English on the Universal Declaration of Human Rights and translated them into 21 ethnic languages to distribute all over the country. And we also have radio broadcasts in 17 ethnic languages. We have a multi-ethnic, multicultural, multi-religious society. And in terms of protection, basically, we have installed a complaint mechanism, and the procedures are public. We invite complaints of human rights violations and examine them thoroughly through field trips if necessary, and convey the findings to the necessary authorities to take action. If we look at the example of some complaint cases during the year from November 2019 to October 2020, we received about 843 complaints. And then we send some of them which are relevant to the authorities, and we receive back from the government ministries 371 complaints. Some of them do not qualify to be included in our list because some of them are beyond our mandate. And we investigated field trips on serious cases. There were 9 field trips last year. The type of complaints mainly are land disputes, 31%. Complaint against police, 15%. And there are court cases pending, and some of the unhappiness with court cases, 6%. In terms of regional distribution, most of them come from the Yangon region, which is the city business center of the country. And then the second is the Mandalay region, the second largest city in Myanmar and its region. Region means a province in many countries. So we also visit the detention centers to ensure that their rights and dignities are observed and they have proper food and proper sanitation. We also deal with some legal issues regarding international covenants and local laws as well. Advisory role, of course, because we are not lawmakers. Lawmakers are the parliament. So we commented on anti-violence against women, the bill, which was presented in the parliament, and the right to information law. They are all in being considered. So we commented on the right to information law, protection against hate speech law, international covenant on civil and political rights. That one, we recommended the government to be a party to it. It is now in the president's office. And then, of course, we had the so-called e-government activities, which is I think, in line with the 21st century way of governance. So for fast, efficient communications inside and outside, and cooperation with government agencies and other organizations as well. So that will be the ICT-based platform for media outreach as well. And then finally, every 5 years we have elections. And this year's 2020 general election in November, we visited polling stations physically. Because of restrictions, we cannot go outside the Yangon regions. So we have 10 commissioners here and 1 commissioner in Naypyidaw, the capital, official capital. So we address the issues by going around for that day, polling day, and check the polling stations, not on whether there is fraud. Our main concern is the rights to vote, the human rights of the voters, whether the facilities have allowed disabled persons or disadvantaged persons as well to vote, and so on. So our main concern is how does the polling stations operate in a physical environment in which the voters are not discriminated. Thank you. I think we can now move to the Q&A session.